Welcome to Forward Ever, Leading in Challenging Times, presented by Worth Wealth Management, a weekly conversation with area leaders about how to persevere during uncertain times. Now here's your host, Gary Shorman.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Forward Ever, Leading in Challenging Times. Our guest today is Monica Boyd, who's the director with TIF Family Services. You know, our show that deals with leading in challenging times, and anybody that's worked with foster care or the foster care program or foster care kids knows the challenges that that system faces, not only every day, but every week, but every year. One organization is there to help meet those challenges, and that's TFI Family Services. Our guest today comes as the director of TFI Family Services, and that's Monica Boyd. And Monica, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for spreading the awareness with us.
Now, TFI Family Services, what does that stand for? What's that about? Can you tell us about TFI?
Originally, so we have 60 years in the child welfare system. So 60 years ago, we're celebrating our 60 years this year. And so 60 years ago, we started out on a farm, a small town right outside of Emporia. And so that's what it used to stand for, was the TFI family, or the Farm Incorporated. But now TFI has grown to 5 different states. And so it's TFI Families and Companies.
Now, it's a 501c3 nonprofit organization, as I understand it, but it
That's
really
correct.
deals with child welfare, behavioral health services. And as you stretch across those companies or those states, you actually work with families in all those areas and to help grow the foster care program. Is that correct?
That's correct. Just providing children in a safe, stable environments, helping them meet their needs and wherever permanency will lead for them.
You know that you don't think about this. Myself, you get raised in a family farm. We were on a farm, but with a strong family that you had, you didn't even think about going somewhere else. How prevalent is this?
The numbers for Kansas have dropped lower for overall for youth in foster care, but it is prevalent because, as you said, you grew up on a farm where your connections are. Foster care is prevalent to have as many homes as available as we can in those, even in like small communities like where we grew up, right? So that way kids are able to stay within their connections. They're able to maintain those connections with their school teachers, with their friends, with their church. The school is a big one, as you know, as we're able to continue to help support them grow in their education instead of having them, you know, if we have a foster home locally for them, they're able to meet those needs still continuing where they are. And so it's very prevalent to be able to have foster homes throughout all the state of Kansas.
How do kids end up in foster care?
There is there's a need for, if there's emotional abuse or physical abuse, or you know, if there was substance abuse in the home, there's a determination, and the court is the one, and law enforcement are the ones who determine if a child is in an unfit home at that time. And so if the state determines that, if they are a child in need of care, then they will reach out to the Department of Children and Families at DCF, and then DCF refers them to a contract agency. And so there's many different ones in Kansas. TFI holds the contract. We call it Area 4 and Area 8, but there's different areas. So part of Southeast Kansas, and then a part near Winfield and El Dorado, that area.
So when you do this, that has to be a tremendous emotional time for the kids, being removed from their home or whatever they have for a home, being removed and then place something temporary and then getting another foster care home. Tell me about some of the experience you've seen there.
I started out, I've been with TFI for 13 years. Just as you said, you know, we grew up and we didn't realize that there was other kids who needed homes. My grandparents started fostering. My aunt has fostered as well. And so I just thought they were, you know, somebody that they were just helping take care of. And so I started doing my practicum, my internship with TFI when I was in college. And there was a program that TFI partnered with the Kansas University, and it was called Strengthening Families Program. It was helping provide parenting skills for youth, for parents who, didn't have that cycle of good, stable parenting role models for themselves. And so we provided a meal. They were able to eat together, and then the parents were able to receive a lesson of the week, and then the children were receiving a childlike lesson similar to that. And so then we would come together, and then we would interact, and we would observe the parents and kind of help guide them through that on their parenting, and just kind of give them like pointers and cycling through that. And those are the youth that reintegrated back home with them. So then I started working with foster homes. There's a mini need for foster care homes. Just as I was explaining for that piece, we at TFI, we strive to have when youth enter care, we strive to have them, at least if it's safe, with a family member, a relative, somebody that they know. And then there are options if that's not safe for them, or there's not an option for them to go to a relative. Then we reach out to ask that child or the family, do they know of anybody who would be willing to step in and provide that care for them? And that we call it as an inner kin placement. And so those are the when we meet with schools, or if we go and speak at churches, that's the message we try to share, is that if you know somebody who has entered in foster care, and you are able to help them, step in and help assist to kind of bring them back to the community, or initially before they even get taken out of the community, there is an option for the non-relative kinship care, and we as foster care staff help support them through that piece. They're also able to receive the same training that foster parents receive. They receive the same support. There's our on-call. We help coordinate those visits and work, just work in partnership with them.
Well, I have 1,000 questions, but first off, sometimes there's a misnomer that these kids are troubled kids or in trouble. So, they just got out of jail, so now they need a foster home. That's not the case most of the time, is it?
No, it is not. It is not. And oftentimes, is what why foster care has my heart is there's times that those kiddos that they may not know any different. They may not know that it's not okay to just take something from the store, or that it's not okay to not clean your room, and kind of like just those like daily things that we were taught as we were raised. And so they may not have had some of those social or life skills that our foster parents help provide to them. And so that's where you see, whenever a child comes into their home, they might be doing something one way, and foster parents kind of work with them and say, hey, that might not be appropriate. Here's another way that we can explore. And then you see like a child just blossom into as having that family environment that they have, their family values, education values is a big one. That's one that I really, there's always a story, I have so many stories, but there's always a story that I love to share. As a part of a foster care worker role is when you're supporting a foster family in that child, when they first get to their homes, there's a family that, and there's many stories like this, but there's a family that they got into it, like I was explaining, as a relative placement. Their grandchildren came into care, and they stepped up and didn't want them to go anywhere, so they provided that care for them, and until they went back home to their parents. And then so the relative family end up saying, well, hey, we know this, it's not a different world now, and so we'll step in and help be respite parents, or we'll help provide other placements for other youth in need. And so they did, and they were helping provide life skills for so many teenagers, because that was teenagers were their favorite. They were able to kind of, as I stated, like help provide them those lessons, and then they blossom. And they're still to this day where they didn't adopt them, they didn't do guardianship, but they still come back and those are their grandparents. And then those children are their great grandparents. And so, but they end up taking in a 8-year-old boy, and they're like, normally we don't say yes, but the police protective custody had called them and said, hey, we have an 8-year-old boy. There's a sibling group of 5, but we need to find a home for him. And so they said yes. And then they end up finding out, well, there's a 10-year-old boy and of the brother. And so they are like, okay, we normally don't do that young, but we'll help them, like, yes, we agree. And so then that's when they found out later on, after they came into care, the child in need of care, that they found out they had 3 other sisters. And so they're like, whoa, 5. But you can, as a foster care worker, we're at TFI, that's the culture that we provide, is that the support to the homes. And so we are out in the homes frequently, multiple visits throughout the month. And so you're able to see them come in. For example, there's the 10-year-old boy. He said, I don't care about school. I don't really go. I don't, it's not for me. And he started to not care about his schoolwork, but that consistency that the foster parents provide with their family values and their encouragement and their love, that he came home from, and you could see him like studying at the table with the family. And the next visit that I was at, he came home beaming with a math test that he didn't get 100%. He might have he missed some, but that foster parent was so proud of him, and that child was able to feel that. And just the simple act of them putting it on the refrigerator, and that child felt that accomplishment, felt that pride in themselves. And so now he's in high school and loving school. But that as a foster care worker is you're able to point those out to the foster parents and say, it's just a simple act of what you did. But I can see that pride in him that he didn't start off right away with, but that is what you have taught him. And so those are just those small things that, why foster parents are so needed, is because of just that love and commitment that they provide to kids who, it just may be the simple acts, but they're able to help children grow.
Monica, we're going to come back to this in a little bit, because I know you need more foster families. You need more people to help with this. But before I go there, you provide some, I don't say it's unique, but you supply a lot of support for families where you go out, and I think you even get together at times and do special events. That becomes great for the families, because you get someone that comes from outside. You don't know what you're getting as a foster parent. So having that support would seem really important to me for somebody that wants to be in that role.
Absolutely. We provide monthly support meetings to foster parents so they can receive that continued education. And then we also provide the childcare during those support meetings. We also do like an annually retreat that we're gearing up for in the next few weeks, where we host all of our foster parents, and we provide a hotel, and it's an all-day training on Saturday. And we get to take the kiddos out on an activity while the family is able to interact with all the other foster parents. And we provide some speakers, and sometimes, it's just kind of like feeling what our foster parents need. We reach out to them and say, how do you, what do you need at this time? And so maybe it might be some motivational, something about self-care. Maybe it might be something about some insight on, just a little bit more insight on trauma. But during that time, we take the kiddos to like the trampoline park or bowling, and just so that way, like the parents can just interact with one another and be able to help kind of grow and, connect their hearts with their souls. And so our foster parents are always grateful for those retreats.
This is a crazy question, but how special do you have to be to want to be a foster parent?
Oh, I always call them our superheroes. They're pretty powerful. And like I said, as I've been doing it for 13 years, and to them, they're just day to day, but to us, we see that youth that is quiet and reserved. And then And then you check back in with them, after visits and such, and you have to remind them, and they're like, oh my goodness, like they're back talking now. It's like, yes, but that shows they're comfortable. You allowed that comfortability that you opened your heart and your home to them, and now they're like, well, we already know you, so now we're opening up our shell.
Well, that's like a real family, that
It
happens in a
is.
real family. So how long is the typical foster child in a home?
It ranges. That's what I was meaning back about, supporting youth where they need. Um, so, for example, like Ellis County, there are only 20 homes throughout the whole state of Kansas, and only in Ellis County. And so, those youth, if we, within those 20 homes, if they are not able to, if they don't have the space, then we have to have them go to another county over by there, or further out. And so that being placed outside of your home county kind of slows down that reintegration process, because their visits are longer. They're not able to meet as frequently. They're not back with their school. So there's many different ways, but typically it could be we need foster parents who are provide respite care. So that respite care, normally not a lot of people who know that, but there is a need for respite care. Say, like, if a foster family wanted to go out on a date night, and we reach out to a foster home who's only licensed just for respite, we can say, hey, can you provide this care for them so they can go out on a date night? It supports our long-term homes. Or if they have to go out of town for a funeral or whatnot, those respite homes are able to help keep those kiddos in school, or keep them where they have their needs. And so respite homes are a great need. There's also homes who do just emergency placement. So as I was meaning, just as that home, they received a call from like the police protective custody, and so before they enter in care, there's emergency placement. And so it's just short term for a few days. There's a need for short term and our long term care. And so typically it could be 6 months to a year to a little bit longer for long term placements.
Monica, how many homes do you need? For example, in Ellis County, we'll just use that because we have a number of 20 licensed foster homes in Ellis County. How many do you actually need in Ellis County?
I don't have those numbers on that, just, but we need, there's always like those different type of needs, right?
Mhm.
Whenever we have homes who are able to take in younger kiddos, then we have a need for, maybe there's a more of a need of teenagers. And so that's, what we're also spreading awareness about, is the need for, higher acuity kiddos, and with the higher needs. In sibling groups. Sibling groups are one of our hardest ones, because we want to, just as that family, they agreed to take in that sibling group of 5. And normally it's not, just like that, but it's keeping those 2 kiddos together, or 5.
That's a big heart when you have 5 kids that all of a sudden end up
is.
in your house.
It
So
is.
let me ask this question, though, and this may help. Then we're going to take a break and come back and talk about how you get into the loop on this. Because sometimes it's easy to just drive to your job every day. You do your job, you get home, you're tired, and you don't even think about, boy, maybe we could provide this as something neat. Is there some sort of cost reimbursement for families that decide to be in the foster home,
There is.
I guess,
Yes.
area?
Yes. Yes, there absolutely is. And that goes off of the child's level of care. And so there is, if you keep a kiddo overnight, then it goes off of like that reimbursement. But it is a reimbursement back to the foster home.
So you get some financial feedback or some financial support from the state as well for helping out with this. So it's not just a donation of time and home. You get some support for doing it. Okay, that's good. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back and talk about how to get into the loop. Even if you just want to get in and ask questions about it, how do you get into the loop? Stay tuned. Monica, hang with us. Monica Boyd is with TFI Services, and she's one of their directors there, where they take care of hospice care in 5 different states, including Ellis County. Back with more after this.
Since 1776, the United States of America continues to stand tall. It's been tested before, many times. Through grit and the ability to move forward, we create better tomorrows. We help our clients live their best lives to and through retirement. We make it easier. Thank you, Kansas. Worth Wealth Management, enhancing lives and strengthening families.
Welcome back to Forward Ever, Leading in Challenging Times, brought to you by Worth Wealth Management. Our program today is about hospice care and the need for that, or foster care. Let me put it that way, foster care and the need for that in our communities. And sometimes it's just like, okay, we know about foster care, but how do we get into it, or how do we even ask questions? Monica Boyd is our guest. She is a director with TFI, and they provide the services across 5 different states. They help families get into the process of being a foster family. Monica, where do they go to learn more about this? Even if they would never get into it, they just want to ask that first question of what's involved, what does it take, how do I get funding to help support it? Because I can maybe not, it's hard enough to support your own family without supporting others. Where's that first step that they can take to learn more about it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So as you said, we are in 5 different states. We started out in Kansas, 60 years in Kansas, and then Oklahoma, Texas, Nebraska, and Missouri. And I am the foster care director for our Kansas, Nebraska, and Missouri program. I'd love to even give out my phone number just to help answer any questions. But if they are interested in like the different states, our website is tfifamily.org. And there is a big link that says become a foster parent. And it pulls up an application. And so then it will, once an application is completed, it can say, I just want some information right now. Just information only. Or there's an option to say, I'm interested in being a foster parent. Please, receive my application. And so then we are able to reach out to those families and provide them that guidance. We connect a foster care worker to the family who is interested right away. And we're able to get them, if there's a pre-service training that is required for foster families in all the states, and in Kansas, so specifically in Nebraska, there is a 7-week course or a 10-week course. And the 10-week course is with a group setting with other foster parents. And it can be offered online, virtually, because we all know we're busy. And so the state has also created to where it could help support in that manner. And in that time, you're able to learn, is foster care the right journey for me at this time with our family? And so if you have a spouse, we do have that where the spouse, the family will take it together to take the training together. Then if there is questions, there's a lot of myths. I like to say that. You have to at least be 21. You can be a single foster parent. If you have other kids of your own, that is okay too. We do ask that, that the kiddos are on board as well. As a family decision. And again, that training is what helps guide them to that as well. And then some people are like, well, my house isn't big enough. There's DCF requirements. And again, as a foster care worker, they're able to help answer those questions. And so sometimes,
is there a licensing process? Do you have to, does that fulfill your license if you go through those? Because I believe you have to have a license to be able to be a foster care, right?
Yes. And that's what that pre-service training would set you up to have the license. And then, like, as I said, the foster care worker will help guide you from the beginning to the end through the licensing process.
But an easy way to get started is just to go to TFI Family, TFI, just the letters, family.org. And then that takes you straight to a thing where you can say, I want to be a foster parent. You click that button and that gets you started there, right?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Gary.
Oh, that's the first step to take. And if you want to do that, we know there's kids out there that need it. We know that kids need a home, and I've talked to several patient or parents that do this, and they just have big hearts. And the stories that come out of that are just pretty, not only heartwarming, but they're pretty amazing. Some of the help that they've given to families, and especially kids that come back and they tell their story and how that changed their life and put them on the right course that they didn't have before. And I know you probably have walls of stories and notes in your 13 years about that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. As I explained, my grandparents used to foster as well. Um, and it's just this, we grew up, my mom's one of 10 and my dad's one of 7. So we grew up with family all around us. And so to us, it was, it's just more family, more people to share the love with. And it was just a simple act of, he would tell me, I do love being in foster care. He was 9, but he was like, I do love being in foster care. Just the simple act of going to a park and just, feeling that family environment. And he would also just be able to go back on on visits and spend that time with his family. So it's just that heartwarming piece, as you're saying, as it's not all just the child's fault that they enter in foster care, but they're able to receive all that extra love. And there is we have heard, again, within the 13 years, people have shared that I it would hurt my heart to have that child go back home. And so that's why I'm not interested in foster care. And we respect that. But it is that simple not simple, but it is that other factor of like hearing what my grandparents' foster child had said is they loved being in foster care. But what it boils down to is that he loves being able to receive all that extra love and support that he had. And so we say, it is, we're not sugarcoating it. It is hard to have a child that you care for day in and day out, and they go back home. As that is the main goal is for foster care, is for them to reintegrate back to their parents or their other caregiver once they're safe and stable. But during that time, you have taught that child and made an impact with that child to have a family, to teach them what a family environment is, to teach them values, to teach them education, to provide that safe stability during that time. And so even if it's, a week, even if it's through respite care, or even if it's through, 3 months, 6 months, however long, you're able to teach that child what family is and have that safe stability for them to grow and be an adult where they always carry that with them.
Monica, you're an inspiration. Thank you for being on our program today. We deal with leadership in challenging times. You've been doing this for 13 years, and I appreciate the leadership within the foster care program that you have, and appreciate you being on our program.
Thank you. Thank you for having us and sharing the awareness for TFI and then the need for foster families.
Monica Boyd, director at TFI Family Services, a wonderful foster home program that if you want to link in, you can go to tfifamily.org and they will link you in with a way to get started in the program. If you have some questions on that, you can take a look at that site and that'll get you started. And if you want to be a foster home family, what a great opportunity to share love with kids that really need it. Thank you for listening to Forward Ever, Leading in Challenging Times. Our program is brought to you by Worth Wealth Management, where you can live with confidence. I'm Gary Shorman.
Thanks for joining us for Forward Ever, Leading in Challenging Times, presented by Worth Wealth Management. Join us right here next week for another episode with host Gary Shorman. Until then, remember to move forward ever, backward never.